And we've had personal experience with this because, unlike you, I don't live with it every day. But my 9-year-old just went through 3rd grade, where they spent half the year at least preparing for the end of grade test. And she had a good teacher, but it was incredibly intrusive in the learning process. So the first thing I believe is I don't believe that a child learns anything from filling out a bubble on a cheap standardized test. I don't think they learn anything from that. And the way a friend of mine from down south likes to describe it, he says, you don't make a hog fatter by weighing. I knew you could get it in a second. I think there are several things we need to do. We need to broaden the criteria that are considered for determining if a child is making progress. There are some things like analytical skills, critical thinking skills that are not included. We also need to involve the teacher much more seriously in the evaluation process. I think that, what is it called, Follow the Child here in New Hampshire is a good model for some of the things we can do. But we ought to be measuring the progress of each child, not included, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. We also, when we identify, let me go to your question. There are two problems that compound one another. No Child Left Behind, the federal government has not funded. So guess who gets to fund it? It gets to be funded at the local level, that's right. On top of that, the federal government has never met its responsibility to fund special education. And the result, that gets shifted to the local level. When you put those two together, what it means is it creates huge financial burdens on local school systems, which is one of the reasons in some places here in New Hampshire, you don't even have kindergarten. Because the schools don't have the resources to do what they need to do. And you're describing a very specific problem, which is children with disabilities, children with special needs, the way they're being tested has nothing to do with their individual plan, their individual education plan. This is all these environments. Sometimes they're living with an aunt, sometimes they're living with their mother, sometimes they're being moved 5 or 6 times during the school year from one place to another. They never know what next day is going to bring. They're worried literally about survival. That's school number 2. No Child Left Behind treats both schools the same. They are not the same. And this cookie cutter approach does not work. So, and that now I'm getting to the last piece of this, which is when there are schools that are struggling, a lot of them know it already. They don't need No Child Left Behind to know. What we ought to be doing is getting money, resources, and expertise into those schools to help them. So get rid of some of this cookie cutter stuff. Get the people who are in the schools. And by the way, the last thing I would say is if you've been to some of these meetings in Washington on education, what you find are a bunch of policy wonks who think they know everything. Instead of people like you who live in the school system every single day, you're the people we ought to be listening to determine what we ought to be doing.